Welcome to today's deep dive. Ever feel like you're constantly plugged in,
Yeah.
like 24/7?
Yeah, I think especially for young people today.
It's like a given, right? So we're going to dig into this whole idea of disconnecting.
Taking a break.
Exactly. Hitting pause on the digital world
Yeah.
to actually reconnect.
With yourself.
Yeah, with yourself and with nature.
I like that.
We've got this really interesting book.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
all about digital detox, and it is packed with some pretty surprising insights.
Can't wait.
One of the things it jumps into right away is this idea that our brains,
You love instant gratification.
they're wired for it, right?
Yeah.
Especially with tech, with likes and comments.
New videos popping up every second.
Like ding, ding, ding all the time.
You get that little dopamine hit.
Exactly. But the book says this can backfire big time.
Oh, absolutely.
Like it affects our sleep, our relationship.
All sorts of things.
We're going to get into some seriously practical stuff today, too.
Okay. Like what?
How to actually create tech-free zones
Ooh, I like that.
in your life and why that is such a good thing.
Because I think a lot of people think that's impossible.
I know. It seems impossible.
Yeah. But it's not.
And then we'll explore this connection between unplugging
Okay.
and actually sleeping better.
Now that I know young people are going to want to hear about,
I think so, because that's a huge struggle.
for sure.
I mean, for everyone, but especially for young people.
Yeah, it's interesting how this whole idea of digital detox is really catching on.
Yeah.
Particularly with younger generations.
Like this pushback.
It is. It's a counter movement to the always on world that you guys have grown up in.
Totally. And the book really highlights, I love this part, the connection to nature
Yes.
as being like a key part of this whole detox thing.
Being out in nature is so important.
It is. And the book starts off with this question, like, how did we even get here?
Right. Like, how did this happen?
How did we become so dependent on this technology?
Yeah.
And it points to some things like, the crazy fast
Oh, gosh.
pace of technological advance.
It's mind-blowing.
And the way these platforms are designed,
Oh, tell me about it.
they're designed to be addictive.
They are. They're like playing on our brains.
Totally.
Our natural tendencies.
Yeah.
It's like they figured out all the right buttons to push.
I know.
Right? Keep us hooked.
It's all about algorithms and gamification, right?
For sure.
Think about it. Every notification, every
Like a little reward.
little dopamine rush in the brain.
And it's the same neurochemical involved in pleasure and all those good things.
Exactly.
Which is why we crave it.
We do. And I feel like for young people especially,
Oh, yeah.
your brains are still developing.
Still forming.
It's got to be extra hard to resist that pull.
It's like you're more susceptible to it,
Yeah, it's kind of unsettling when you really think about it that way.
It is. It's a little bit scary.
And it's not even just about our individual brains, right?
All right.
It's about how this constant connection
It impacts everything.
affects real life,
Yep.
our relationships, like the ones that really matter.
The important stuff.
Yeah, and the book talks about that too, right?
For sure. I mean, there's all this research now
There is.
showing that face-to-face interactions are just crucial for developing empathy,
Yeah,
social skills,
yeah.
and even just a sense of belonging.
Like a feeling of connection.
Digital communication, it can be great
It can, for some things.
for keeping in touch, for sure.
Right, but it's not the same.
It's not the same. You can't replicate
It's
that.
not the same nuances. It's not the same feeling.
Especially for you guys who are like figuring out the whole social world.
Totally.
It's so important to have those real life interactions.
So then the book gets into some strategies.
The good stuff.
The how-tos, right?
Yes.
For actually doing a digital detox.
Yeah.
And some of them are really geared towards young people.
Okay.
One that stood out to me, setting limits.
Like boundaries.
Yeah, on how much time you spend.
On screens, on social media, on your phone, on everything.
That's so hard, but so important.
I know. And it also talks about creating tech-free zones,
Okay, I love this.
which I think is just brilliant.
That's a great idea.
Imagine if your bedroom was like a total
No phones allowed.
sanctuary.
A sanctuary, yes.
No phones allowed.
I love that.
Your bedroom, your safe space.
Yeah, and it ties in with what we were talking about before.
Yes.
With nature.
The nature connection.
Imagine having a tech-free zone,
Ooh.
like in your backyard
Yeah.
or in a local park.
Your spot,
Yeah, a place where you can just escape all the noise,
all the notifications.
all the craziness, and just be present
Yeah.
in nature.
I love it.
And speaking of nature, the book is full of ideas for offline activities
Yes.
that can help you disconnect
Yeah.
from the digital world and reconnect,
So it's not just about being tech-free. It's about,
filling that space.
with something else.
The things that actually matter.
It talks about things like reading.
Classic.
Yeah, exercising, getting your body moving.
Hanging out with friends
In person,
in person.
not just online.
But it especially highlights activities that get you outside.
Okay, like what?
hiking,
Love hiking.
gardening,
Oh, yeah?
or even just like taking a walk in the park.
It can be so simple.
It can be so simple.
It doesn't have to be this big, elaborate thing.
No.
Just get outside.
And what's fascinating, and the book gets into this,
Go on.
these activities aren't just about having fun.
Okay.
They have real,
Measurable.
measurable benefits
I love that.
for your mental and physical health.
Absolutely. Tons of research on this.
There is.
Spending time in nature can reduce stress, improve focus,
Yeah.
and even boost creativity.
It's incredible.
It's like a magic potion.
It is. And I feel like for young people who are dealing with so much pressure,
Oh, I know.
school pressure, social anxiety,
All the things.
the challenges of growing up,
It's a lot.
that connection with nature can be so restorative.
Absolutely. It's like hitting the reset button.
Okay, so we talked about the how and the why of digital detox,
Right.
but the book also gets into this what if we don't question.
Ooh, the scary stuff.
What are the risks of being constantly plugged in?
Yeah.
And it's not just about feeling stressed or distracted.
Right.
There are actual clinical risks,
Oh, wow.
like messed up sleep patterns,
I've definitely experienced that.
posture problems, eye strain,
Yeah, my eyes are always tired.
and even mental health issues.
Like anxiety and depression.
Anxiety, depression, yeah.
It's serious stuff.
And this is something that's especially relevant to young people
Oh, why is that?
because your brains and bodies are still,
Oh, right. They're still developing.
they're still growing and changing.
So it has a bigger impact.
They can, yeah.
Wow. That's something to think about.
It is.
Yeah, it's like you're trying to build a house, but the foundation is like wobbly. It's
Ooh.
constantly shifting.
I like that. That's a good analogy.
Yeah. You know, those teenage years are just so important for brain development.
They are.
And all this screen time, it can really mess with that process.
In ways we don't even,
We're only starting to understand it.
yeah, it's kind of scary.
It is a little bit.
But, okay, before we spiral,
Right.
the book does offer some hope.
Okay, good.
It basically says that a lot of these risks that we just talked about,
Yeah.
they can be mitigated by, you guessed it,
Getting outside. And,
nature.
Yeah.
Like nature has this amazing ability to reset our minds and bodies.
It really does. It's like a superpower.
It's like a superpower,
Think about it. Less screen time equals less blue light.
which messes with our sleep.
Exactly. And there are studies that show even short walks in nature
Just a little bit.
can lower our stress hormones and blood pressure.
That's incredible.
It's pretty amazing.
The book also mentions some experts
Oh, yeah.
who have been studying this stuff for years.
Okay.
People like Manfred Spitzer,
I've heard of him.
Sherry Turkle,
Mm.
Nicholas Carr.
Yeah, they've done some really interesting work.
They've written some groundbreaking stuff about how technology is changing us,
Like literally changing us.
the way we think, the way we feel, how we interact with the world.
It's pretty profound.
It is.
Spitzer, he talks about this concept of digital dementia.
What?
Yeah, have you heard of that?
I haven't. What is that?
He basically says that using too much technology can actually make our brains
Oh, no.
less sharp.
Like impair our cognitive abilities?
Yeah, things like memory problems, trouble concentrating,
Really?
and even like emotional blunting.
Wow.
Yeah, it's kind of intense.
But it's not just about feeling distracted in the moment.
Right, it's deeper than that.
It's changing how our brains actually work.
Exactly. It's changing the structure and function of our brains.
That's kind of scary.
It is a little bit. And Turkle, her work adds another layer to this.
Okay.
She's done a lot of research on how technology affects our relationships.
Which is something we were talking about earlier.
Exactly. And she's found that even though we're like super connected online.
Right, we have all these friends.
Exactly. But we're actually lonelier
Wow.
and less able to form those really deep, meaningful connections in person.
It's like we're trading real intimacy.
For the illusion of connection.
That's a good way to put it.
Yeah, it's like a fake version of connection.
And then Nicholas Carr, he talks about how the internet is literally changing the way we think.
Oh, yeah, he's got some great points.
Like we're more prone to distraction
Totally.
and less able to focus deeply on anything.
It's like we're constantly skimming the surface.
We can't dive deep.
Exactly. We've lost that ability to really get lost in something.
He argues that it's all the information and stimulation online.
It's just too much.
It's rewiring our brains
Yeah, it's like our brains are being reprogrammed.
to be more distracted.
It's kind of ironic, isn't it?
What?
We're sitting here talking about a book that warns us about technology while using technology to have this conversation.
I know, right? It's kind of meta.
It is, but it also shows how deeply ingrained technology is in our lives.
It's everywhere.
It's not about getting rid of technology altogether.
Right.
It's about using it mindfully.
Finding that balance.
Exactly. Finding that sweet spot.
And the book offers some practical tips for doing that.
Oh, I like that.
It talks about setting boundaries,
Like we talked about.
creating those tech-free zones.
Yes.
And finding those offline activities that you actually enjoy
The things that bring you joy.
and that connect you with nature.
That's so important.
And it doesn't have to be anything crazy.
It can be simple.
It could be a walk in the park, reading a book under a tree.
Just something to unplug and recharge.
Exactly.
Those little moments can make a big difference.
They can. I feel like, especially for young people, it's like you're at this crossroads.
Yeah, or you can choose.
You can choose how you want to use tech, how you want to let it affect you.
Exactly, instead of it controlling you.
Be more mindful about it.
Take back your power.
Yeah. And I think so much of the conversation around technology can feel kind of negative.
I know, it's all about what you shouldn't do.
The don'ts.
Yeah, but this book and our deep dive today,
It's highlighted the good stuff too.
the positives,
It's about rediscovering all the amazing things that are out there.
beyond the screen.
Beyond the screen, yeah. And they don't have to be complicated or expensive.
No, not at all.
It's like the simplest things.
Sometimes those are the most powerful.
They are. Spending time with people you care about,
Yeah.
being creative, exploring nature.
It's about finding what truly nourishes you.
Yeah, what makes you feel alive.
Exactly.
I think for a lot of young people, the pressure to be constantly connected,
It's real. It's intense.
it's overwhelming.
It is.
But maybe the answer isn't about disconnecting completely.
Right.
Maybe it's about finding that balance,
That sweet spot.
knowing when to unplug,
Yeah.
recharge in nature.
Like hit the reset button
Yeah, and then come back to the digital world.
with a fresh perspective.
Exactly, with a fresh perspective.
That's such a great point.
So it's not all or nothing.
No, it's about finding what works for you.
Finding your own balance.
Realizing that it's a journey, not a destination.
That's so true.
You'll have times where you're more plugged in, and that's okay.
Yeah, life happens.
But the important thing is to be aware of how it's affecting you
Yeah, pay attention.
and make choices that support your well-being.
Well said.
Thanks.
I think that's a perfect note to end on.
Yeah, I think so too.
We've covered a lot of ground today.
We have. It's been a good deep dive.
From the science of digital addiction.
All the way to the benefits of being in nature.
Hopefully this has given you some things to think about.
Yeah, and maybe even inspired you to do a little digital detox.
Try it out.
It's a little one.
It doesn't have to be a huge dramatic thing.
Start small.
Small steps.
Put your phone away during meals.
Yeah.
Go for a walk without your headphones.
Just notice how you feel.
When you unplug, even for a little bit.
You might be surprised
Yeah, at how good it feels.
how much more present you feel.
More connected to yourself.
Or connected to yourself and the world around you.
Exactly.
So what's one small step you can take today
To unplug and reconnect.
to unplug and reconnect with yourself and with nature?
That's a good question.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
It's been fun.
Until next time, be well and happy disconnecting.